All right, so we have our 18 kilowatt, 3 kilowatts out of each one of these connected, and we are running our 3.5 ton and our 4 ton heat pumps to heat the house right now. So right now, you can see out of there, we got 927, 855, 887, 1.02, 1.06, and 984. So we have right around a kilowatt on each one of these, and it runs about 6 to 6,500 watts when I'm running both of those heat pumps, the upstairs 3.5 ton and the downstairs 4 ton. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. We have the heat running for all of our vents. Our vent right here, you know, the vents that are ducted in the house, vent up there. So it's heating the entire house, the bedrooms and upstairs and downstairs. So we are running this 3.5 ton and the 4 ton completely on solar right now. So we got right up here is 16 300 watt solar panels. Out there we have an array that's 8 330 watt panels. We have another array over here with 8 330 watt panels. We have 10 400 to 500 bifacial mono panels up there, brand new. These are all, that's one array. Those two together are one array. That first one I showed you is one array. This is 24 250 watt solar panels. Those are polys. Those are connected to one of the inverters. And then the new inverters we just did, we have these, there's 3 solar panels on each side of the shed, 3 solar panels on each side of the shed. So there's 6 on here, 6 on here, that's 12 for 3,000 watts. And then we have 8 400 watt panels, and these are just filthy, and they're putting out a kilowatt. I mean, look how filthy those things are, and they're still being able to put out that kilowatt. I gotta wash these off after I do the video. Anyways, I just wanted to show you what I was running on that those 6 off-grid solar inverters. I just installed the 5th and 6th one yesterday and got those up and running. Forgot to bring in my temperature gun so we can see what kind of temps we are running on the vents in here. Let's see. We have 91 degrees. I just turned that one on. This usually takes about 10 minutes. 91, 80, 88, way up there. Can't get a reading off of that one upstairs. But we are running the upstairs and downstairs air conditioner that came with the house on our solar. So we're 95 out of this vent, so it's warming up. Anyways, I wanted to show you on these inverters. The hard part was getting all the wires communication cables to put them all in parallel, because if you don't do it right, you'll get error codes. It's not communicating right. So the other thing is on these inverters, so this one and this one is in parallel. This one and this one is in parallel, and this one and this one is in parallel. So the way I had to do it is, this is 120. I'm one of the one, this is split phase on here. So this is 120. This is the same 120. And this one is the same 120. So those are all on one leg, those three right here. Then this one, and this one are on the other leg of the 120 to give me 240 on my split phase. So we have all of these connected, where here's the breakers for the solar coming in, and I've got them like P1, P1, P2, P2, N1, N1, N2, N2. And then over here, I haven't marked them yet, but this one is this breaker, and that one right there is this breaker. And that's for the solar coming in. Those are 20 amp breakers. And you want to try and keep it around 18 amps coming in. You can go up to 500 volt solar panel PV input, but you have to keep those amps down there low, around 18 amps or less. And right now, the one thing I want to show you is we're running like a kilowatt on each of these. So we're running around 6 kilowatt. You can see up there, but I wanted to show you the percentage, the percentage that we're running 36%, 32%, 33%, 37%, 39%, and 37%. So we're only using about a third of the total output possible on this. So we're not really overworking the system. Now, if I had this as a 6 kilowatt, I'd be draining my battery while I was running that, and that wouldn't run that long. See, right now we're on standby. So we're not using anything out of our battery. Everything's being pulled in. Our batteries are completely charged. If we look on here, we can see that it's 200 amp hours and 100%. So I actually have 5 batteries hooked up, but I only have these in parallel right here. So it shows only 200 instead of the 500. I need to get a rack with 6 slots so I can put 6 batteries in this. But this took 2 days to get this installed, mess with the solar, because the solar was set up for the old grow watt inverters, and you can only go up to 145, 150 volts PV solar input. These you can go up to 500 volt PV solar input. So I had to completely redo and run those in series. I have 8 400 watt panels I showed you that were extremely filthy dirty. That's this one right here. It's putting out 1.06 kilowatts. It's keeping up. That dirty panels isn't making a difference on that. This is the 2 sheds with 3,000 watts on each. 6 solar panels on one shed, 6 on the other. The 6 are in series, and then the other 6 are in series, and I parallel them together out there at the shed and bring in just 2 wires like this coming in down there. So this is that 10 400 to 500 watt mono bifacial solar panels on the pergola. This is the east side array. That was the first one I showed you. I was standing underneath. This is the north wall. There's 8 panels on one side of the garden and 8 panels on the other. They're 330 watts. That's the array. And then this one is the 24 poly panels in one array. There's 12 in series, 12 in series, and I parallel them together. As with this north wall, there's 8 in series, 8 in series, and I parallel them together out there. So this over here in the 4640, that first one I showed you, was 16. So it's 8 solar panels in series, 8 solar panels in series, and I parallel those together. So this is really running nice. Now, one of the nice things about this, people ask me, well, why didn't you just go with one inverter? Well, I originally bought one inverter to try and use in my motorhome. I put it on the wall. I was testing it. I was testing with some solar panels in the yard, and it was like 2 weeks later, I noticed how much better I liked this inverter. So I wanted to see if I could do the split phase with it. And they give you everything you need to do split phase. You know, the only thing that you have to buy yourself is these breakers for the PV input, which are like 13 bucks a piece on Amazon. They don't sell 20 amp breakers on Signature Solar right now, but so I went on Amazon and I bought those, and these are all the same brand, and those are the same exact brand there. Just like these are all Nader inverter DC breaker mini switches. So on these, the one thing I really like is I have a hernia. Again, my stomach hernia. When I was in the hospital in November, I found that out. So I don't want to be lifting heavy inverters anymore right now. I don't want to tear it worse and have to do surgery again. I already had surgery like 10 years ago on one. So these are only 18 pounds a piece. So they're really easy for me to handle, easy to work with, easy to mount up on the wall. But the nice thing is these will give me up to 25 amps charging my battery right now. It's running load, so but each one of these will give me 25 amps coming in to charge my batteries. So that's a 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150 amps to charge 5 batteries. That's 30 amps going into each battery if these batteries weren't charged. Right now, they're, like I said, they're fully charged at 200 amp hours, 100%. So there's no need for them, but yesterday I was running them, and it's 25 amp hour, or 25 amps out of each battery when you're down to like 50, 60%, 80%, 90%. With the sun's out and it's hitting these panels, you're getting your 25 amps out of those. So, and that's at, split phase. So now when I go to try and start those compressors on those air conditioners, that 3.5 ton, that 4 ton, and even my pool heater that's a 12.7 ton, I have soft starts on all those. And before I put the soft starts on there, the 3.5 ton was right around 78 Inrush amps. And without that soft start, you're gonna not be able to start that thing up. So putting a soft start on that 3.5 ton dropped it down to 18 to 20 amps Inrush when I go to start it. I put a soft start on the 4 ton, that drops it from 109 amps down to like 30 amps at Inrush. And then the 12.7 ton pool heater is 186 Inrush amps, and that dropped that down to around 44 to 48 Inrush amps. And 2 of these can start each one of those. If you had 2, you could start the 3 ton, or you could start the 4 ton, or you could even start the 12.7 ton. The problem is running them all together. So with 2 of them, I can do the 3.5 ton and the 4 ton heat pump air conditioner, and well, it's heating right now. Or, and then I could start the 3.5 ton, run that, start the 4.5 ton and run that with 2 of them, but I'm at 6,000 to 6,500 watts. So now I start discharging my battery, because these are only 3,000 watt output. So I had to go to 2 more. Now that's 12,000 watt output. But you got to look at your amps that you're using, your running amps. I mean, it's 30 running amps on the 3.5 ton, and it's around 38 or 40 on the 4 ton. So it's when you're charging your battery with 25 amps, right there you've got 70, almost 70 amps. So that's like 3 of those using up what it's bringing in. So these are 80 amp chargers on, I believe, single phase. If you just have one, you can go up to 80. But when you start putting those in parallel, it limits it to 25 amps on each one of those. Because if you have just one battery and you're trying to push that for 4 of those inverters, that's going to be 100 amps. You can put 100 amps in there, but not for a long period of time into your battery. So, usually it's not going to charge like that. It's not going to be a full 100 amps. Even if it was at 20%, it might charge at like 40 or 50. I've never seen it really charge over 50 amps when the batteries are really low. So, but I've never had 18 kilowatt on the wall either. So we'll see. The thing about this is, when I first did it, I put 2 of them on the wall, put them in parallel, split phase, 120, 240. And then I tested it, load tested to make sure it worked okay. Then I went and bought the other 2. I put 2 on there, connected them the same way. So on split phase, one of the inverters, if these 2 are in parallel, one of these has to be 120 volt leg, and this one is the other 120 volt leg. And on this panel in here, on each side up here, you have a leg that it comes in and a leg it comes in, and then your neutral is over here, and then you have your grounding bars over here for your neutrals on 120. So when I bring that in, one of the inverters is on this leg and the other inverter's on this leg over here. And then you also have, so you have 1 wire from your inverter. You have 2 wires, here you go. So this white wire is neutral, and the red wire back here is your line. So the white wire on all those inverters will go to the neutral that's over here, and then one of them, on one inverter, you'll have your 1 leg. There's 2 wires coming out of your inverter for your output. So you have your line is on 1 leg and your neutral is on the neutral. So on the next inverter, it would be the line on this leg over here and then to the neutral with the other cable on there or wire. So you have to, so up here on these 2 lugs up here on the legs, and then this is 1 leg right here, this is 1 leg right here. So on these 6 inverters, 3 of them are going to be 1 leg, 3 is going to be the other. So I have 3 wires coming in here. 3 of the wires are coming here, 3 of the wires are coming here, and 6 wires, 1 from each inverter on the neutral that comes out of the inverter is going into the neutral bus, and that's bonded in there with the panels so that your neutral and your ground are the same. So on this side we got 120, this side we got 120. Each one of these individual breakers here are 120, but when you go on to these 50 amps and 30, here's a 50 amp, 50 amp, 30 amp, 30 amp, and then 30 amp, 30 amp. This is a double pole, so it's 2 50 amps. So there's 120 on this leg and 120 on this leg on this breaker, and they use this piece here so you pull on or off at the same time. Same thing over here, 120 on this one, 120 on that one. So 120 on each of these breakers. So, because in here, behind here, this one, like I said, is all on 120 leg. This one's on a 120 leg. But this goes down, and you want to balance these loads on here when you're doing that. So I don't have anything on this one right here, but I do have the pool heater right here, and I have a dryer, and then I have the 4-ton. I usually don't run either of these if I'm running that pool heater. I couldn't in the past because that pool heater was eating up all my amps. It was like 7,500 to 8,500 watts. So it was pretty much between the 4 inverters, it was chewing up everything I had and starting to drain my battery. But I might be able to do it now. But you know, I got my 3.5 ton down here. I got my 18,000 BTU garage air conditioner right there, the mini split. So, you know, when you're doing this load center, you want to kind of try and balance the stuff out. I'd balance it out to according what I would have running all at the same time. And there's no way I'd have the pool heater, the dryer, and the 4-ton all running at the same time. And over here, I can run the 3 amp and I can run all this stuff. So, but I usually don't run. If I'm running the living room mini split and I'm running the patio mini split, those are on the opposite sides of each other. This outlet down here, I got another outlet right here that I have over there. So, but this is a 200 amp service panel on this, and this is another one. I had 2 grow outs on the wall, but I don't need this one. I have this outlet and an outlet back over here that I just need to take the input from here. I'm going to have to disconnect it there and run a longer line and come into it here and put it up here somewhere. So we'll have everything on this one service panel. Eventually, I'm also going to run a line across the wall and over to my garage door opener. And I might even, since my hot water heater's just right here, it's like, I don't know, 12, 14 feet away, I might run a line over to that. Because we really don't use the hot water heater. It's a smart one. And it doesn't heat up all day long. It gets to know our patterns. But on these, on this schematic here, this is your electrical schematic up here. And this is for your communication cables. So your electrical right here is your wires in this flexible conduit. That's your output coming right here, right here, right here, and right here. That's your output. So your output down here is going to have your neutral line 1 and line 2 in it. And like I said, this one and this one are in parallel. So this one's on one leg. So that one right there would be on this leg. And then this one down here would be on this leg on this side. So 120 equals 240 between the two. And it's the same thing with all the other inverters. Now, you have your solar coming in, and they show you on your PV connections here, you have to have solar for each one of these. Now, you can run it off the battery without any solar, or you could run with, I haven't tried it with running, say 4 of them with solar and then 2 of them with not. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that one. But when you look on this, on your schematic here, and like I said, this is the wiring up here. This is the communication cables right here. This is the communications I'm talking about right here. The ones right here, the ones right there, those right there, those right there, and those right there. That's how you parallel this together. This right here, I just put these lines and connected these lines so you can show you, because they show 1, 2, 3, but then you could go 4, 5, 6 inverters, and then it would be N, N1, N2, N3, N4, and N5 for the 6 inverters. So P is one leg, and the N's are the other leg, if you want to look at it that way when you're actually kind of thinking about when you, it's not really that way, but kind of, because this is P right here, and this is N. That's a P, and that's an N. This is a P1. This should actually be an N over here, but I have this as P2. But, so when you go to actually run these wires, I'm going to start with this one right here. It's a loop that goes to every single one of them. So out of the bottom one here, we're going to go over and come to the top one right here. And then out of this bottom one right here, we're going to go to the top of this one. Out of this bottom one, we follow it over here to the top of this one. Out of this bottom one, we follow it up to the top here. And out of this bottom one, it's right here, we come over here, on the bottom one, yes, it's the top one, so the bottom one on that far one, this bottom one right here, comes over to the top right here, and this bottom one right here comes over to the top where we started right there with the black wire, the yellow wire with the black tape on it. So it makes a complete loop all the way around, so it communicates with all 6 inverters. So when you're coming out of the bottom of one inverter with a cable, you're going to go into the top of the next one. Or if you're coming out of the top of one, you're going to go into the bottom. So it sets up that way, and that's the way that they have it in the schematic. Now, one of the things I want to show you about the your output for your AC is when you're looking at the schematic. When you're looking at the schematic and you look down at here, on this side of the inverter, right here, on this side, there's 2 inputs or outputs right here that you screw into. So on this side, it's going to be line, and this one is going to be neutral. But when you're looking at this, being a DIY guy like me, I'm looking at it, and it looks like the line right here is coming down for the line, but it says it's neutral. So you can't really look at the wires on that. They're kind of flipped around a little bit. So, but your neutral, like I said, is all of them go into one spot. So, like I said, the line's on this side in here, and the neutral's on this side. So on every one of these, with the neutral wires, all 6 neutral wires, they would run and they would dead end in here on the neutral in your breaker panel. And then 3 of these inverters, like I said, are on one leg, and the other 3 are on the other leg to balance it. So you have 120. You got 120 coming out of each one of these inverters. But when you put it in there like that, it's split phase. So you got 120 on each legs. That's how you can get 240 on these. So if you take a reading across one leg to the other leg, you'll get 240. And then if you take a reading from one leg down to here, you'll get 120. And from here, 120. And then if you go on this leg and go down to here, you get 120. And this right here to over here, you get 120. And then down to the ground, you'll get 120. So the ground and the neutral are bonded in this breaker panel, because I cannot do earth ground at my house. I pick up too much residual voltage from my main breaker on my house. And here's the panel right here, and it's insane because I have to walk all the way over here to the other side of the house That's on the west side of the house. I have to walk over to the east side of my house, and here's my electrical panel. It's right here, but the grounding rod is in the backyard. I don't think they have, I don't see any grounding right here that I can see. But when I had my pool put in, I know they drove a grounding rod into the, I don't know if you can see over there, but way at the end is the pool pump, and over there is a grounding rod, but somewhere over here they have this grounded. But all the way over here on the west side, I still pick up like 60 some volts. If I were to sit there and do a reading with my meter, I would actually, if I earth ground it with no solar hooked up or anything, I would end up picking up 60 some volts on my grounds from having the ground wire out there. So I can't run a ground wire. Just, you know, it is what it is. Got too much voltage in the ground, and that's what it's for. So on these, like I said, I can get to charge my batteries up to 25 amps out of each one of these while I'm running a load as well. So with these in single mode, I think you can get 80 amps out of those charging the battery with just one of them. But when you start paralleling them together, it knocks it down. You don't want the ability to have 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, and 80 amps coming out of these and fry everything. So you got 25, the thing it maxes out, it limits the charging when you have it in parallel to just 25 amps, which is fine with me. You know, and like I said, people ask me, well, why didn't you do two 6,000 watt inverters or two 8,000 watt EG4 inverters? They have a 6, they got these 3, the 6 EG4 kilowatt off grid, they have the 8 kilowatt, and they have the 12 kilowatt. And I believe I want to say there's 2 different 12 kilowatt. One might go up to 20,000 watts in panels, or either 20 or like 20, maybe 22 or 24,000 watts. One of them is at 18,000 watts output. Then you have the 8,000 watt that I think you can put 5 or 6,000 watts on each one of those MPPTs. Now the 12 kilowatt has 3 MPPTs in it. You know, this is 6 separate MPPTs because there's one in each one of these. The 8 kilowatt, I'm not sure if that has 2. It probably has 2 MPPTs for the solar maximum power tracking point. Maximum power point tracking, I think it is. So the 6 kilowatt has 2, and I believe on the 6 kilowatt, there's 2 MPPTs on there, and for the charger, and I believe you can get 4,000, it's either 4 or 5,000 watts on it. But, so you could go with 2 6 kilowatt, or you could go with 3 to get the 18 kilowatt output. I actually like these. Like I said, I have a hernia, so they're only 18 pounds. So the lighter ones are going to be much better for me. I don't need any more surgeries. I went through 2 last year, so kind of avoiding them. But, you know, with one of these, if they go out, it's $674 to replace one. As where with the 6 kilowatt, it's like $1,200 or $1,300. The 8 kilowatt, I don't know if it's like 16 or 1,600 or 2,000. And then, you know, you've got the 18 kilowatt, I don't know if it's like 3,800 to 4,400. So, you know, this is $1,300 for each one of these. So that's $3,900 to put 6 of these on the wall, you know. But they do give you 6 feet of red cable and 6 feet of black cable. They give you this 125 amp breaker. They give you this cable to run from your inverter over to your battery. And you know, you want to have, in order for it to register all the batteries, you need to have this wired from this one to this one. Just like in here, you can see that the negatives go from each battery to the next. Each battery goes over to a bus bar here, and each one of the our negative cable, and each one of these positives over here go there. If I ran a positive cable, that red cable here, if I ran one of those off this screw right here up to this screw right here, and if I ran it from the black one on this side up to the black one on this side, I could get all 5 of these in parallel. But I'm kind of really don't want to run the wire like this here with this door where it can close. I guess I could maybe, there's a hole right here. Oh, there's a hole right there. I could actually take these rubber things out, rubber grommets there, and drill a hole there and run them up through there. And then I could put those in parallel, and instead of it showing 200 amp hours, it would show 500 amp hours. 5 batteries, 500 amp hours. If I had 7 batteries, it shows 700 amp hours. So I really like the fact that these are light. They're very powerful. 2 of them can start a 3.5 ton, then a 4 ton, and run them both at the same time with no problem. The only problem is I'm draining my battery. So they'll start, they're a powerhouse. I really like that on those. I like the fact that on this 18 kilowatt, I have up to 300 amps of Inrush starting power when I have all these on. If I only have 2 inverters on, I only have 100 amps. If I have 4 inverters on, I have 200 amps of starting power. If I have all 6, it's 300 amps of Inrush starting power for motors or for compressors. So I really like that, the fact that I have that. And, you know, when I start my 3.5 ton and 4 ton, which those are still running. Let's see what the heat is on those. I think I left my temperature gun out here. Did I? Not seeing it anywhere. But, oh, here it is. Okay, so we're up to 67 or it's 67 degrees, and we have it set at 71. Now over here, we have 111 degrees coming out of there, and 107 out of there. And that is the upstairs. Showing 104 degrees upstairs. See if I can get a reading. I can't get a read. I'm too far. But my return is 76 degrees on that return and 80 degrees on that return. So I'm getting good heat. Those mini splits, well, actually, this is 113 degrees coming out of here. The mini splits will put like 120 degree air out. But when you have a vent here, a vent there, a vent there, a vent right here, and a vent right there, I mean, it's going to heat it up a lot better with the main air conditioner on than the mini split, but that mini split uses 1/4 of the power that that 4-ton uses. And then I have over here, I have the mini split over here as well. So if I'm running this mini split and this mini split downstairs, that one goes all the way down through the kitchen, and that one goes over here and heats this whole area or air conditions it. And I'm only using like 2,000 watts. That's using like 4,000 watts running that. So, you know, it does a pretty good job with the mini splits, but now that I have 18 kilowatts of output, that's a lot. So I'll be able to heat the house up much quicker. And we really don't heat our house up more than 64, 66 degrees. But this is, now it's down to only using 22% on the 21% on this one. And this one is 26%, 25%, 20%, and 25%. So we're not even using a third now because it's not having to run as hard to heat up. And if you will, to bet you the upstairs, because heat rises, if you will, to bet you the upstairs is almost getting ready to shut off, is why that's doing that. But, you know, when you go to connect these things, just take your time and look at this and double check it and triple check it. Because yesterday when I connected this, like I said, I used this one and that one and that one in parallel, this one and this one in parallel, and then that one I connected yesterday. So since I already had these set up, I looked off of those and I kind of wasn't looking on here, and I kind of flipped my output right here on this one to where I had the neutral was over on the line and the line was over on the neutral. And when I was trying to turn on the inverter, I'd get a code 8, which is too high of bus voltage. So I noticed that, shut it down. I actually disconnected this, pulled this over, and I opened this up and I did a ohm test, and I that's when I was able to find out that I actually had the two flipped. This one was wired up correctly, but that top one wasn't. Then once I did that, it started working like a charm. So I'm really happy. And, you know, this is running both those air conditioners, and I have a decimal meter here that will stand back about 8 feet. So we're right around 55 decibels. So at like a foot away, we're around 60, 61. So they're really quiet. We're at 48, 49 decibels over here. So that's pretty quiet. That's one of the reasons I like this. Now, if you have one inverter, if you have a 12 kilowatt inverter and you're running 6,500 watts through there for a 3.5 ton and a 4 ton, that fan's going to be a lot louder. That's one of the reasons why I'm out and working in this garage all the time doing other things. And I like the fact that I can actually turn on my TV and hear the TV, and I don't have to worry about, you know, the fans drowning out listening to the TV. And I don't have to have it up on 80 on the volume. I can have it like 7 or 8. So that's a bonus on that these fans are so quiet. But some of the things that you need to know for this is this is my main one. My very first one is P1. So that's my main inverter. That one in here is set up on the settings for number 5. It is Li4, okay? If you toggle through here, you can go to, oops, let me get in there. If you toggle through here, you go to Li5, AGM, flooded, user, Li1, Li2, Li3, and back to Li4. So this one has to be, your first one has to be Li4, lithium 4. Every other one has to be set at a number 5 setting. Has to be set at AGM when you go in here. And then once you press escape and go out, it'll change to Li. There, if you noticed up there, there was no Li. There was Li1, Li2, Li3, Li4, and Li5, but there was no L1. So once you put it on AGM, it automatically switches to Li on this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So you just have one that is like that. And the other thing is when you go in here, trying to remember on the, you're going to get up into the high 20s on the setting here. Okay, so for this one up here, number 28, is going to be, you're going to have to set it as 2P1, and this one will be 2P2. If you look over here on the top of this page of this, they say that you go to the settings, one of your inverters in parallel with the other one has to be 2P1, the other one has to be 2P2. So when you go into your settings back here for that 28, you'll see that you have a whole bunch of here. So this is a single inverter by itself. This is, if you put them in parallel, a single in parallel, you can put a bunch of them, 12 of them in parallel. And then you have split phase, three phase, 3P1, 3P2, 3P3. So that's one setting for 3-phase. But when you have split phase like I do, 120, 240 output, one of your inverters is going to be 2P1 and 2P2. So this one is 2P1, that's 2P2. This one's 2P1, this one is 2P2 in the settings on 28. This one's 2P1, number 28 setting, and then this one's going to be 2P2. So the other, I think there was 29, let's see. I'm trying to remember if there was another setting in there that you had to mess with. This is all equalization in here. I have that disabled. No, I think that's it. And then so just to scroll through here on mine, I have no grid power assist coming in. This is just solar and battery. So on the first one, I have solar battery utility for the setting. I could probably get away with changing it to, solar, just solar for charging. But then I have it at 30 amps on the, let's go through the book here. For number 2, number 2 is the maximum charging current. And the default is at 60 amps on one inverter. You can go up to 80. But when you start putting them in parallel like this, it's going to max out at 25 amps. Even though I have this set at 30 amps, it's going to max out. I'm trying to think of what I have. This was my first one I set up. Oops. Yeah, they're all on 30. So I have my amp set at 30. Number 4 on the power saving mode, you want to disable that. There's three is appliance mode. So appliance mode is 70 volts to 160. You can use UPS 80 to 160. I've had no problem using either one of those. I've never used the one for the generator. This is what you would connect for a generator. It'd be on, for number 3, it would be 03. And that's like generator, was what that spells are. So we have an appliance. And then number 4 is SDS right here for disabled. We don't want that enabled. You can't get any output for some reason. When it's saving mode, it's going to save, so it doesn't give you any output. So number 5 is the battery type. We already went through that. You got AGM, flooded, user, Li1, Li2, Li3, Li4, Li5. And actually, if you're using EG4 batteries, the protocol is lithium Li4. So it tells you that. So, and then here, the auto start when overload occurs, we have enable in case it were to shut down. And then overload for temperature, we have enabled. And number 8 is output. So number 8 is your output. You can set it at 110, 120, or 115. And we have it set at 120. So you can set it what you want. 60 hertz. It's going to give you a choice of 50 or 60. And 9 is going to be, 9's your output frequency. 10 is your auto select with load. I have it on auto, and the default is manual. For when auto is selected, load will automatically bypass if utility is within the range defined in program 3. So I don't have any utility or grid coming in, so I don't have that. I just have it on auto. So utility, you can have 2 amps, 20 amps, 40 amps, 60 amps, 80 amps, 10, 30, 50. So you can go from 2 up to 80. And we actually don't I don't think it really matters, but we can put this down at 2 because we don't have any grid coming in. Nope, only goes down to 2. So we got it set at 2. And I'm not sure if this will automatically change it over on the other ones. What was that? Number 11. Yeah. See, it automatically switched it over to 2. And if I go over here, I'm not sure if it'll. Number 11. Yeah. So when I'm programming in one of them, it's switching in all of them so that they all stay in line because they're in parallel. And if we go to number 12, number 12 is your point back to battery, and the 46 point back to utility, and 46 is your default. I just left it on that because I actually don't have utility. It says low battery voltage level that switches to the load to utility if SOL, solar, I'm not sure what that is, SOL, or SBO priority has been set in program 1. And we have SBU, so it's not set to that. So it just has it as 46. And then we have for number 13, point back to battery, we have it where battery fully charged. It'll go until it's fully charged. So you have all these selections in here. You have 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, and 62. So we just put it at full. And number 16, it jumps to 16. We have it as OSO. Solar energy will only be charge source regardless of whether utility is available or not. We're only using solar. We don't plan on doing anything else besides solar. But you have solar first. Solar energy will charge battery as first priority. Utility will charge battery only when solar is not available. So at nighttime, it would use you could have it where it could, if you had the grid power on your input, you would be able to switch it over where it charges the batteries. And I want to say when you have these in parallel, it's got to be 200, 220, 230, or 240 coming in on your thing. I don't think you could bring in 120 volts input. It has to be the higher one of the split phase. But on the C, utility first, it would be utility will charge battery first priority. Solar energy will charge battery only when utility power is not available. You could put it on that one. Then there's solar and utility. Solar and utility will charge battery at the same time. And then this one is just solar only. So we have it on just only solar. And if you go to 18, that's the buzzer mode. I have those turned off. So the buzzer sounds when there's a fault. What do we have it as? We have it at ND1. So buzzer is mute. But you could put the buzzer sounds when the input source changes or there's a specific warning or fault. Buzzer sounds when there is a specific warning or fault, or buzzer sounds when there is a fault. So you can choose any of those. Usually what I find, and it really isn't with these inverters, with other inverters, if there's a fault code, it'll just shut the inverter down and you won't have any output. It'll shut the input and output off. So then we go to 19. 19 is auto return to display screen. So this comes on default where it'll stay on, it'll return to the display screen, which is this screen right there. See that? Or you can set it on this one, which we have it set. Now it's kind of a little different. It says, it's kind of got like a thing right there. It says EP, and this is a little different on this first character. See, it has like an upside down A. So, but it stays on this screen as long as it's running. It doesn't revert back over a minute or so. We go to 20. 20 is background lit, and the default is on, and then you could have it off if you want to. 23 is overload bypass. I actually have that as enabled for an overload. When enabled, the unit will transfer to line mode if overload occurs. So I should actually turn that to disable because I don't have line. I guess I could. I'll leave it. It's running. I don't want to touch it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So 25 is just showing what your Modbus ID setting is, and that's exactly what it is. 26 is the same thing. It just shows you bulk charging. It says it is self-defined. If self-defined in selecting in program 5. Program 5 is the battery, remember? Battery is number 5. Can be set up, setting range from 48 to 62 volts for 48 volt models, but the setting value must be more than or equal to the value of program in number 27, increments of 0.1 volts. Number 27 is right here. It's set at 54. So that's the next one. So I just leave it at 56.4. That is, at 12.8 volts, 12.8 plus 12.8 is 26.4, I'm sorry, 12.8 and 12.8 is 25.6, and then you have 25.6 as 52. So that's pretty much the 13.2 range, I think it is. 13.2 plus 13.2 is 26.4. That's 52. So I don't know what I'm talking about on that. Just ignore that one. Anyways, it's set up at 56.4 volts. I was thinking about something else. And that's what I left it at. And number 27 is set at 54. And that's for your float charge. So the bulk charge was on that 26 at 56.4. And this is the float charge at 54. I pretty much just leave it at that. And then here's we talked about this earlier. We're on split phase right here. The inverter is operating in L1 phase and split phase application. And then the inverter is operating in L2 and phase and split phase application. So we got 2P1, 2P2, and this is 2P2. So, and then you go to number 29, which is that's set up like that. We didn't change that at all. You can change that from 40 to 54 volts. So that's your low DC cutoff. So I have it, it's actually at 42, and that's probably pretty good for me. So I'm happy with that. I could go up a little bit higher, but you know, that's going to be 10.5 volts on, you know, if you had four 12-volt batteries put together, once you get down to 10.5 volts, it would cut it off. So these batteries are equivalent to like four 12.8-volt batteries in series. And then when we go to number 30, I left it on one inverter, or you could do it on all inverters. When all is selected, parallel or three-phase will continue working according to the rule of solar first, setting only when all inverters are connected to PV. So I haven't had any problems with it on this, but on one it says when one is selected, as long as one of the inverters has been connected to PV modules and PV input is normal, parallel or three-phase will continue working according to rule of solar first. So you can determine what you want to do here, but I just left it on one. Then when you go here, there's 32. This is for bulk charging. And I believe, so 32, you can have it as what it is on the screen. You can set, this is automatic, or you can set it to 5 minutes or 900 minutes. So I just left it at automatic. So then we go to battery equalization, and I have that as disabled. I don't have battery equalization on it. And then E4 is going to be that screen. That's actually was set up at 64, but I set it down to 56, but it's disabled. I just disabled it here, so this isn't really going to matter right here. And then when you go into the battery equalization things down here, all this is disabled, but we'll scroll through it. So here's 35 is 60, 36 is 120. These are defaults. 37 is 30 days. 38, there is no 38 in here. So I have that disabled. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is. I think it was already disabled. So that's the way it is. 39 is right here. It's either enabled or disabled for equalization activation immediately. We have it disabled. 43, it is the setting state of state of charge point back to utility. Since we have that disabled, that doesn't matter, but it's at 50. 44 is setting state of charge point back to battery at 95%. And you can change these values. If you look next to this, you can change these values here, but I left them alone. 45, low DC cutoff for state of charge at 20%. And you can go from default to 20%, 5 to 30% settable. So you can do that on there. Now that ends right there, but you go to 46, there's a 46, and then that's it. So 46 was in the off position. So I don't know what that is. And then you just escape out of here. And that's it on programming those. So just remember that one's gonna be P1 and one's gonna be P2. P1 and P2 that are in parallel, P1 and P2 that are in parallel. And pretty much it. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And there's links in the description. When you click on those links in the description, we get a small percentage of the sale that helps us to purchase these, and we can grow our channel. So that helps a lot when you do it. It doesn't cost you anything when you click on the link. They just share a little bit of the sale with it, but you don't get charged more or anything like that. So, anyways, hope you have a truly wonderful and extremely blessed 2025. See you in the next video.